Welcome to the final FamiFun video and the top 100 Japanese exclusives. Let's start with a little add-on that could, the Famicom Disk System. Kick Challenger Airfoot, Warrior of the Vegetable Kingdom. A tomato with Nike shoes walking around kicking bugs? What's not to like? If it had 8-way movement, this might have been higher, but even so, this human entertainment developed Nintendo action game is still good enough for the number 4 spot. I have to admit that this would have been a lot lower if I hadn't learned how to use the winch thing properly at the last minute, before I did my review. But now I think that it is indeed a clever platformer, and the best 8-bit Indiana Jones game. A game about a baby, but not a game for babies. This Konami platformer would have been number 1 if not for the fact that it doesn't let you continue on the last world, and inputting the level select code takes 2 hands. Really good game though. Really. I'm as surprised I put a non-platformer at number 1 as I'm sure you are, but Senji Nicole is just very good, and unlike Upa is completely exclusive to the disk system. The overhead action is quick and fluid, and while some guidance to find the necessary items is needed, the gameplay is just that solid that it won out here. Maybe one day some big YouTuber will talk about it, but until then, I will. The best Famicom Disk System game. I didn't expect taking the Solomon's Key block mechanic and putting it into a platform game would be a good idea, but turns out it was. One of Konami's least well-known Famicom platformers, but it shouldn't be. Nowhere near as good as Contra, and has a kind of bootleg feel to it, but I thought Crossfire was a pretty good running gun despite that. Not Natsume's best game on the system, but a good one nonetheless. Good graphics, music and gameplay. I just wonder where the two-player mode went. Zelda 2 in hell, kind of. Great music. Best played with maps and instructions on where to go, but there's a password system to help out. It's in hiragana, but everyone knows hiragana, right? This sequel is where Goemon got good. It introduced two-player co-op and has a proper story to go through instead of just looping levels with added elements like the original. Ebisumaru was also introduced here for the betterment of the world. The longest side-scrolling game that I've ever played, and that's because this game was ahead of its time by being basically Metroidvania on the Famicom. Finishing the game took me almost 10 hours, and at least 3 of those were spent grinding for levels and sword levels. A good game, but I won't be playing it a second time. AKA Kung Fu 2, this beat 'em up is much better than the original. Good, clean fun, that's all this is. A simple game that's simply fun. I didn't mind the 2D shooter stages much either, which is rare for me. And yeah, the premise of trying to get thin to impress your demanding penguin girlfriend is hilarious. Shojin Sentai Jetman feels like Shatterhand Light, but that's not a bad thing. The levels are pretty simple and combat isn't very taxing. But there's a hard mode for you if that's your thing. The boss battles weren't what I expected, but they're not that bad, and the music by Hiroyuki Iwatsuki kicks ass. I still can't say if this is better than Blades of Steel, but in either case it's one of the best Kunio games. The violence associated with Kunio works very well for hockey, and the great Kazuo Sawa music works very well for my ears. I'm so glad that I found the speed setting, or I might not have placed this game on the top half of the list, but having played through it now, I know that it's a good action RPG, and the extra chip is the icing on the cake. This is my favorite Splatterhouse game. I love the movie references, and the blending of cuteness with violence and gore. It's not a deep game at all, but yeah, I like it a lot. I prefer the art style of the original being more true to its inspirations, but the sequel here is the better game overall, no question. This series should have lasted more than just 2 games, because it's such a good idea. Variety, thy name is YY World. The idea of mixing and matching parts to make your own hero is a really good one, and the basic gameplay is very good as well. Takeru took the dream world route and made the game kind of random, but what it lacks in cohesion, it makes up for in imagination. This game is a testament to the power of amazing presentation, because if you modded away the graphic detail, stiffened the animations and changed the music, it would be only average. But Moon Crystal isn't average, is it? I don't think so. The only Tecmo game on the list, this game based on samurai pizza cats, is a good time. You play as a bunch of cats, each with different abilities, and you fight wacky enemies, and it's not very hard, but it is fun. This game is River City Ransom in Edo period clothes, but that's not a bad thing. The areas are much less flat, you get an AI partner with you even if you're playing alone. I would say this is better than RCR, if it wasn't for the slowdown. And lack of a title screen. It's important to me, damn it. Natsume Gatoru is a very good game by Natsume that reminds me of Mega Man and is very fun to play. It also has great graphics and music by Hiroyuki Iwatsuki. I don't have to read the manga to know that this is a great one. Many might prefer the Game Boy Kid Dracula, but I prefer the Famicom game. A very charming take on Castlevania with lots of personality, lots of techniques, great music, and plenty of difficulty to go around. Mixing Adventure Island with Metroid, Adventure Island 4 is the last and best Famicom game to never see release in the West, as well as the best of the Adventure Island series. It's good in all regards, and was a pleasant experience for me from beginning to end. I've had many pleasant surprises from the Super Famicom library, but this one seems special in the way that it's from a genre I didn't even know I could enjoy. Early on, the focus is on gathering food and materials to survive, but as it goes on, it's more about just exploring the island along with the characters, and maybe get off of it too someday. Maybe. This and its prequel sequel might just have been remade for the Switch, but I think I prefer this first remake. It has great production values, especially the magnificent opening. It's strange that this kind of game, which was so popular on the Famicom, only got one for the Super, but the one it got just might be the best. Sure, this is one that I respect more than I love to actually play it, but that's because I haven't learned how to use the fishing line to its fullest yet. When I catch up to the game's level, it might advance a few spots. The best Kunio beat-em-up this side of River City Ransom. It also has the most involved storyline. I guess it's canon in the story then, when the villain calls me out for playing on easy mode. This is the game that inspired the recent River City Girls, by the way. The sole RPG on the list. Kokinjo Bokintai is light-hearted and quirky, and that's just what I like. Enough to overcome the fact that the battles take place in first-person view and that the text box narrates everything. Probably the darkest and goriest Super Famicom game. Also a quality game with good action. Are you a bad enough dude to save your daughter from the Demon King? Well, looky here, a platformer with a leveling system that doesn't take 10 hours to complete. Cosmopolis Galavan. Great presentation and lots of wacky characters from the manga it's based on, which I enjoy even though I of course never read the manga. This was going to be in the top 10, believe it or not, which is a testament to just how much I enjoy humorous sprites and animations. Tarchan is a fun character, and the game is good too with a puzzle edge to it, but I had to move it down the list a bit, because the control can be a little annoying sometimes with how he needs to accelerate before he can jump any distances. This game sucks up colors and puts them into blocks to make them move. A very clever and well-made puzzle platformer with the emphasis on puzzle. I might not be smart enough to figure out most of its levels, but I still like it a lot. Eiji Aonuma's first directing gig, and it's an inventive mix of genres with the basis being Legend of Zelda fittingly enough. With a cooperative focus, why is there no multiplayer? Maybe Joseph Fares can look at this game for inspiration? Speaking of inventive, Bushi is one of the only action RPGs that I've played that's also a side-scroller. Great late-stage SFC graphics, and I will enjoy taking more little tests in the clever battle system in the future. I almost forgot about Clock Tower because I played it on PlayStation because of the mouse support, but the grandmother of survival horror sure does deserve a spot on this list. The only scary Super Famicom game. Sorry, my Jew-all. The most expensive game on this list that I actually own the real cartridge of, although I didn't pay much. A very solid mission-based action platformer. I was very disappointed in the 5th game that everyone seems to love, but this 4th one, while not being the Mega Man X type game that I hoped, is still very good. There's just so much stuff you can do here with the 4 characters, different attacks, shields and whatnot. The giant robot battles aren't the best, but hey, what are you gonna do? Them graphics, dude. But yeah, it's also a good run and gun. Not as frantic as Contra 3, but to me that's a good thing. The 2D shooter stages are also pretty good, at least the first couple before they get impossible, to me. Looks like Mega Man, but plays like, I don't know what exactly, but a fast-paced beat-em-up with great music and it's fun. Fun for 2 people simultaneously as well. Wildly better than the other Mylon game, this is a pleasant platformer that I'm ashamed to admit I had quite a bit of trouble on the last boss of. But I did it, and you should too. Here's actually another action RPG in side-scrolling format, but I would say this leans more to the side of action. I think it's a better mech game than Cybernator, and gives a lot of RPGs a run for their money as well. I have no idea why it's so cheap on the second-hand market, but I'm not complaining either. Not the most complex game, but damn it if Natsume doesn't know how to make a platformer that's hard to put down. There's humor, action, and eye candy in this game that actually led me to watch a GS Mikami movie, imagine that. My favorite Gensan or Hammer and Harry game, and mostly thanks to its more forgiving health bar and stages that are less gauntlets and more open. It also has a lot of personality to it and funny sprites and the like, which I always enjoy. No continues and a very hard second world boss kept this one out of the top 5, but it's nevertheless one of the very best Super Famicom games. A puzzle platformer with a musical theme, plays well, looks great, sounds great, is great. Finally, a Goemon game that only frustrated me about 10% of the time, a record. The 3rd game on Super Famicom went more puzzly and exploration focused and toned down the impact battles, and as it turns out, that was just the ticket. What a quality game. Gunman's Proof is a delightful game. Sure, it's a bit too easy, and a puzzle or two in the dungeons would have been nice, but being that I played through pretty much the whole thing with a smile on my face, I think that says it all. So much personality, so much charm, so much Roboton the Manic Mule. It's funny, the RPG-looking town segments are pretty much window dressing, as this is not an RPG but a platformer, but I don't mind it at all. It's also funny to me that a game this expressive and wacky is not based on any manga or anime, although it did have an artist working on it. The story and characters are very enjoyable, but the gameplay is no slouch either. I like the sense of progression in that you start out as a slow lug with just a jump and attack, but end the game with many options in your repertoire, not to mention the different characters you could play as and switch between. Holy Umbrella just kept impressing me, and it's a damn shame that it didn't and doesn't receive the praise that it should.
こんにちは、飯島愛です。私が声の出演をする超かわいいアクションゲームマジカルポップン。みんなよろしくね。Let's go!
I don't think I can add that much on top of what I already said in my review, but Magical Poppin' is the game that made me realize what a great console the SNES really is. I love how cute the game is, I love the princess's voice, I love the graphics, the music, and the gameplay. Magical Poppin' is just a great game, and I love it. So that was my list of the top 100 Japanese exclusive Famicom, Famicom Disk System, and Super Famicom video games. I hope you enjoyed it. I sure enjoyed making it because I like video games. I like old video games, I like Japanese video games. I also like some new games, but not nearly as much as old games. It has been a journey. It's been about five years, 100 videos, 101 if you count the retrospective. I haven't gotten many views, many comments, but doing what I love, can't blame a guy for trying. It has been a journey, and it's also been a collecting journey. My favorite game of all of these, Magical Poppin', was also the game that opened my eyes for the Super Nintendo. That was the game that cemented that yes, the Super Nintendo is the best or one of the absolute best video game consoles ever. And Magical Poppin' actually is on my top 5 Super Nintendo, counting the Western ones, the ones that came out in the West. So it's now over. There will be no more FamiFun games, although I will still be making game-related content, because I will not stop. I refuse until the YouTube shuts down or until they start doing copyrights on everything like they did before. I will keep going.